If you feel like the truth is being kept from us, know that you're not alone. I'm Detective Ozma, and my mission is to dig up the evidence behind the mysteries they want to bury. Today, I'm opening a file where the strangest part isn't a light in the sky. It's what happened after. On November 5, 1975, 7 men left a forest in Arizona after a long day of work. Only 6 made it home. One of them vanished after stepping toward a bright object hovering in the trees. No body. No signs of violence. Just 6 witnesses telling police the same impossible story. And for 5 days, Travis Walton was officially missing. Search teams combed the forest. Investigators treated it as a potential homicide. The men who claimed a UFO had taken their friend suddenly found themselves under suspicion of murder. Then, just past midnight on the 5th day, a phone booth rang. When I opened this file, one detail stood out immediately: the disappearance is documented. The return is documented. Everything in between is testimony. Evidence 1, the roadside encounter. What follows is witness testimony from the logging crew. On the evening of November 5, 1975, a 7-man forestry crew was driving back from work near Turkey Springs in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. According to multiple crew statements, they saw an intense light and stopped the truck. They described a metallic, disc-shaped object hovering low above the ground. Several of them stated that Travis Walton, 22 at the time, got out and moved toward the object. They reported a bright beam or blast of light that struck him, throwing him backward. Believing he might be dead, and panicking, they fled in the truck, then returned shortly afterward. When they came back, they said both Walton and the object were gone. That sequence is the core claim that launched the entire case, and it begins with testimony, not physical proof. Evidence 2, the missing person report and immediate search. Unlike many abduction stories, this one immediately collided with official procedure. That night, the crew reported Walton missing to law enforcement. A search operation began. Deputies, volunteers, and later helicopters combed the area. According to the documented search accounts, no signs of a fight were found, no blood, torn clothing, or clear evidence of an accident. This matters because it locks the case into a verifiable fact: Travis Walton was officially missing for 5 days, and authorities treated it as a serious disappearance, not a rumor. Evidence 3, the crew as suspects and the polygraph spiral. When someone vanishes and the only story is, a UFO took him, law enforcement doesn't start with aliens. They start with the people who were last with him. The crew became suspects. Detectives separated them, compared timelines, and examined inconsistencies. The working assumption was simple: if a crime had occurred, it likely involved the last people who saw him alive. Polygraph examinations were administered during this period. According to the official examiner's conclusions at the time, 5 of the 6 men were considered truthful when denying involvement in Walton's disappearance. One result was described as inconclusive. It's important to clarify what those tests addressed. The central question was whether they had harmed or killed Walton, not whether a UFO was present. Passing a polygraph in this context does not validate the extraordinary claim, it only suggests the examiner did not detect deception regarding violence. This evidence does not prove the presence of a UFO. But it makes one thing clear: as the searches continued and no physical trace was found, suspicion remained, yet the investigation produced no evidence that a crime had taken place. Evidence 4, the call from the phone booth. 5 days later, the case shifts again. Walton called from a public phone booth in Heber, Arizona. Family members went to retrieve him. Witnesses described him as disoriented and distressed. This is one of the strongest factual anchors in the entire story: he did return, and he returned alive, at a moment when the crew was still under suspicion. The obvious question the file keeps circling is simple: where was he for 5 days? And that question has 2 kinds of answers in the record: what can be verified, and what is claimed. Evidence 5, Walton's onboard account. What follows is Walton's personal testimony, and it's important to treat it as such. Walton later stated that after being struck by the light, he regained consciousness in a cold, enclosed environment resembling a medical room. He described seeing 3 small beings with pale skin and large eyes. He claimed he panicked, tried to defend himself, fled through corridors, and then encountered figures that looked human, including one wearing a helmet, before a mask was placed over his face and he lost consciousness again. He said he later woke up near a road, with the craft departing above him. There is no external physical evidence in the public record that can confirm these interior details. They live entirely within his account, which is one reason this case remains so disputed. Evidence 6, the aftermath, the money, and the long shadow. After Walton's return, the case didn't fade. It expanded. Media attention intensified. The story was sold and retold. Walton later published his account in book form, and it was adapted into the film Fire in the Sky. At the same time, skeptics pointed to potential motives and contradictions: a logging contract deadline, financial pressure, prior legal trouble among some involved, and the fact that Walton reappeared in the same region rather than somewhere far away. Polygraphs became a battleground. Accounts describe a failed test for Walton early on, later tests presented as more favorable, and renewed controversy decades later. The key limitation is that polygraphs measure stress responses, not truth, so even a pass can't certify the story as factual. Years later, the case took another hit when one witness publicly wavered and then shifted position again, a reminder that human relationships, money, and time can reshape even long-held narratives. Conclusion. As I review the file, 2 explanations stand out, and neither gets to declare victory. Hypothesis 1, a constructed event. Under this interpretation, the disappearance was staged. The logging crew was under pressure from a looming contract deadline, and an extraordinary event could have provided a convenient delay. Walton's 5-day absence may have involved hiding, assistance from others, or a plan that relied on shock value to hold together. The lack of physical evidence, the conflicting polygraph history, and the later financial opportunities surrounding books and film adaptations are seen not as proof of guilt, but as possible motive. In this version, the case is less about aliens and more about human decisions made under pressure. Hypothesis 2, a real disappearance with an unexplained cause. This perspective begins with what cannot be dismissed: Walton was genuinely missing, a large-scale search found no trace of violence, and 6 witnesses maintained the same core account for decades. Even if Walton's detailed on-board memories remain unverified, the initial roadside encounter and the sudden disappearance still lack a clear conventional explanation. In this view, something happened in that forest that night, whether extraordinary or not, and the full mechanism behind it has never been conclusively identified. The Travis Walton file remains open not because it proves alien abduction, but because it's a collision between documented events and unprovable claims, with human motives and genuine fear tangled together. I'm Detective Ozma, and I'll keep gathering every fragment, every voice, every piece of evidence they try to erase. Many stories get buried, but never forever. If you, or someone you know, has ever witnessed something unexplainable, leave your story in the comments. Or, if you'd rather stay anonymous, send it to the email pinned in the comments. Who knows, maybe the next file I open will be yours.